This computer. Good morning, good evening. Hi, it's a bi-weekly AI session. It's Bally from Leader Eyes, and it's a pleasure having you join. So, as you know, today's topic is looking at AI agents. So, as we're talking about AI agents, like I was saying a few moments ago, I'm going to go straight into this topic. As you know, we meet every 2 weeks. My name is Bally Binning and from Leader Eyes, based in the UK. I know we've got an international audience here. And so it's 4 p.m. for myself, it's 11 a.m. We meet every other week. I'm going to go straight in. So this is an open platform for people to come and learn, hear, and ask questions because that's what we're wanting to do. I'm gonna, like I said, today's topic is AI, and it's that topic of okay, um, kind of how do we build AI and like AI agents, and what we'll do is we'll look at some of those myths that are coming up, or perhaps questions you might have. And so I'm going to go straight into sharing and I'll ask you questions. So this is actually using GPTs because I always like to go to an environment that we're familiar with. So we can cut the chase and say, okay, we have a lot of stuff available. And so I was testing it out. I tested this out a couple of weeks ago. I did another test today in preparation for today's session. And as you know, in this space, in the GPT environment, we have um, we have capability to go into tools and get the actual the tool to do some work. So and I'll go through some questions as well about what agents are, AI agents, how they differ from chatbots. We'll go into a demo here. Like I'll show you exactly what I did here and what it produced and also how I prompted it. Then we'll go into kind of, like some of the things people are asking because there are ways for us to do it. I mean, we can simply get started today. And my intention was like, there's a lot of noise out there. Most people I'm speaking to are saying, gosh, there's a lot in the AI space, don't know where to begin, which tools to use. That's why I believe like having something like this, we can demystify, at least kind of unpick some of that and ask those questions. And if I don't know, I will go find out those, and get the answers to that. So what I did, like I said, I did this a few weeks ago, and what I've noticed with this specific tool where we've got the AI agent built into the GPT environment, what I've noticed it's actually, as you can imagine, with GPT-5, it's shifted so much more, and I really like what you're able to do now. So I prompted it. And it's quite a simple prompt, as most things. It's not prompt or context, right? So I put in here, I said, your interactive Leaderize AI session slide deck. It's telling me it's ready. Actually, it's telling me it's ready. What was the prompt I gave it? Okay, this was the prompt. Create a Leaderize branded interactive workshop. I didn't give it much, right, in terms of the branding. I didn't say, I didn't give it, I could have given it an example. I just said, create a slide deck for Leaderize bi-weekly AI session, October 1st, today, 2025, focused on AI agents, limit it to maximum of 7 slides. So I was testing out whether it would kind of do that with engaging questions to gauge the audience familiarity. Then include brief overview of the current AI landscape with up-to-date research to September 25, which was yesterday, and give Harvard Tech citations or Harvard style formatted citations for any research referenced. Now, you'll see what happened there, but make sure the deck has gold lead rise theme and today's day. Let's see if it got the day. Keep the tone engaging and interactive. Right, so what I got given, so I'll get the slides and I downloaded these. Now, okay, so what happens when you do something like this? I'll run it and I'll show you what happens. Hopefully it doesn't slow it down my end. In fact, what I'll do, will it slow it down? If it does, then I'll stop it. Okay, let's use this and you'll see what it does. So you can so you'll get to see what I did. And then we won't wait for it because what it does, it starts doing some research. And it's a little bit like when you see these cooking programs, where like they've made the dish. They've actually got the dish ready, but they're showing you some of the steps they did beforehand. I think that's the analogy I can think of, right, when I'm thinking of this. But so what I'll do is I'll cut and paste it. I know that this prompt it it could be a bit better, but for the purpose of where we are now, right? So I'm just going to copy it again. And what I would do is I'd open my slide here, and I would go into new chat. So I want to show you what I did. So it's not me just talking about it. So as you know, you've got these various tools here. And so you may not know, but we have many tools in here, right? So we can upload files. Of course, we got deep research and create images, that type of thing. So what I'm doing is I'm going to the agent mode. Yeah. Do you have a question? Sorry. Oh, hold on, let me see. That is hopefully. So I'm going into the agent mode. If you've got oh, hi there, Richard. Good to see you. So this is kind of what I basically did on a very simple thing. And like I said, I'm not going to have it, not going to spend too long kind of showing you, right? So it's really simple and I will kind of stop it, but I'll just give you a couple of things that we can be mindful of when we're doing this. So what it does, it starts setting up on the desktop and it's going to start doing its thinking and reasoning, etc., right? and and of course I'll show you what came out at the end of it. So it takes a bit of time, right? When you're doing this, it kind of starts showing you what it's doing in the back end, doing some research, etc., right? And you have these little dots at the top, right? And so what you can do, you can actually go in and you can take over the browser or you can simply stop it, right, if you want. So these are some of the things that you can obviously do. So I'll show you what it did earlier on, and I'll stop it now, but it takes a bit of time while it's doing its research, it's doing its thing. Sometimes it's telling you that it can find the source, sometimes it's not able to do that. But I find this interesting to see what it's doing behind the scenes because this, it's come a long way. Now, I'm going to stop it there because I don't need to do that. And I'll show you what it did actually as a result of, and I downloaded this slide deck, right? So I'm just going to stop and I'll show you what I ended up getting my end. Hi there, Ivan. Good to see you.
Oh yeah.
So I'll show you my slide deck. I thought it was really quite cool. Um, so this is the slide deck. This is what it downloaded for me. Hopefully you can see the whole page. Can you see the whole page or has it gone a little bit sideways? Yeah, it's gone a little bit sideways. Let me see if I can put it up here. I need a big screen, full screen. Let's see. Should do it. Okay. So I had to make a few changes, but it did pretty good job. I didn't change this. I haven't done anything there. Based on my very simple prompt, you saw it wasn't complex at all. You can move things around, it's giving we're in Keynote, if you're familiar with that. You've got like things you can move around. You can, if I want to move this here. So, and then of course, and then I asked it to give me some questions to get us engaged with the topic. I said, and it's given us some questions. So, we'll ask some, I'll ask you some of those questions. It's asked me to ask you some of those questions. So maybe I'll ask you, right? But one thing I really like is it hasn't done at the bottom, I don't know if you can see it, the left-hand side, it's given us a number and that's where it's given me the citation. So once I click on those numbers, you might see in the next one a bit better. And you've got so it gives me the research where we can go to find the sources. So I did start clicking into this. What it didn't do, which I was thinking it might do, is to give me the citation, but I didn't really give it that. if you like, right? I didn't sort of go into too much detail there. So that's basically an example of doing something really kind of simple. It's left a bit of space here. You can see this was my research. If I wanted to just come out of here and I wanted to just delete that, like tidy it up a bit. So actually it's not bad, is it? For like a few minutes of just a prompt and doing the thing that I've asked it to do, right? So my question, okay, to you is um how many AI agents have you interacted with this year? And that's going to be my question to everybody. And I'll go into do we know? Have you been interacting with quite a few agents already? Good to see you, Richard. I know you've been
I,
building AI agents.
I've been building a few and actually tried to build one that's not yet possible yesterday. Um, I work with a few people that are in the social media space. And right now, one of the big challenges is can we use an agent that can basically respond to people that comment or ask questions in social media? We know we can't do that in LinkedIn because they categorically don't allow any automation. So in agent mode yesterday, um, one of the things I typically do up front is I'll ask ChatGPT to help me write the prompt for the agent in one session, and then work through that, go through a series of Q&A and so forth, and then take that prompt into another session, obviously with the agent. Long story short is it's not possible because and even I even tried, well, there are MCP servers out there that can interface with Facebook and all these others. Um, so sometimes you'll get to a situation where you try to build an agent for something and you won't be able to because agents in a lot of cases have to interface with other systems in order to get the information to automate what it's doing for you. Um, but I've used it for things like create me a daily blog post on, go out and search the internet on a particular topic or subject matter. For example, AI and autism services, and just survey the internet, write me a blog post, a topical blog post every day, and email it to me at this email address. So those are the kind of basic, I think,
Yeah,
agents that are useful, um,
yeah,
that are probably good starting places.
absolutely. And that's what I'm going to be getting at. Kind of where do we get started and how, because the complexity, if we're thinking it's there's so many steps involved, right? So when we're thinking of building that, and you're going to see that when we go through the slides. So what are some of the things that we want to be thinking about when we're building or thinking about our agents? So I'll go through a few of those steps. So thank you for that, Richard. Does anybody, Ivan, do you have, or Anita, anyone, before we go in and start discussing some of these points, Ivan?
I just have a question more for clarification for my tiny little brain here. Is an agent, how does an agent differ from a task?
So how does an agent, basically what we're thinking about, so when we think of an agent, right, we're asking it to do something, but we're asking it to do more than just the simple task. We're actually getting it to um, go into its memory if we've got that embedded in that. We're getting it to where we've got a system prompt, so that's going to be critical. I think Richard said he would use
Mm.
AI to help with that. We've got different pathways, if you like, right? So if we think of one thing, we're going to use, say, an LM, right? A large language model, right? Or or even a small language model. But we may have small, so we've got different pathways. So for example, in a blog writing scenario, if we were to map that out, we would be thinking, for example, Richard would have, perhaps Richard could give his example here. If you've got a blog, you're writing, I mean, I get your blog or your written context through your writing as well. So it might be a topic, you've got a structure, you've got the structural, your prompt given. Um, but you've also, within that, you've also got it to remember from previous interactions because it's doing more than just what you're telling it to do. We're wanting to go understand kind of this is the behavior. And you'll see, and then give me the output. So the difference is that it's not just one simple thing, but it's kind of almost like little bits of things that it does. Like it's like different steps, like it kind of retrieves. And that's why you have like different you could go into different areas as well. So they have these nodes that connect them, and then they'll go so if you're writing an email, for example, it'll go into your email, into your inbox. That could also go into a social media direction. So, for example, a social media
Okay.
post, right? So, remember we did make.com. We didn't go into building that, but we did look at that. We'll go into how we could do that a little bit and talk about how that might go.
Okay.
But it's the
Cool.
pathways. Yeah. Um, so
Thank-
so there's a few steps involved, and I'm testing stuff out in the back as well, so we can go into a little bit more. So it's a bit like I would say we're thinking of putting the bicycle together, and then we're going to start, pedaling and moving, and so and we're testing it along the way. So did anybody want to add anything? Does anybody else have you tried it, Kathy? Um, so we've got a few questions actually. Now that I know that I'm an agent, just a regular AI. Okay. If you are allowing the agent to access emails, how do you secure privacy? My biggest concern is security. So Anita's question about security around emails. So Richard, you're getting emails. What are your, I know you're huge on this area.
Yeah, I've actually used Claude through an MCP server to peer into my email accounts. Um, yeah, and email is challenging because right now um, all of our Gmails are ending up in Gemini, and all of our Outlook emails are ending up in Copilot because that's just the way it works. When you're talking about email, if you really want security, then you need to think about encryption. Um, yeah, and certainly with an email, be mindful today not to send anything in an email, like obviously social security information, PI information, client information. None of that should really be in emails today because unfortunately, large language models are learning from it. Same thing with Twitter. Obviously, most of what Grok knows is from Twitter. So just be mindful what you're putting out there in social, email, wherever may end up in a large language model. So that's just kind of a basic concern. Um, but I'm looking into also, I've been reading some things about MCP servers. I don't know if you're familiar with those, but these just a fancy way for an API or an interface. Um, Anthropic has this through Claude, the ability to interface with email, um, other applications through what's called MCP servers. But there's a question about security about that. Um, through the AI governance side of things. So we're looking into that too. Um, so yeah, emails today, unfortunately, are not a very secure method of communications at all, unless you're encrypting the content.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's we saw a lot of this. I don't know if you was following this in India with the banking. There was a huge data breach recently. So we're going to see, we're seeing a lot more cases come to surface, and yeah, it is vital to be mindful of what we're putting out there. So some of the questions so I'm always mindful of some of the questions people have when they're thinking of building. Some of you might be thinking of costs. How do you do it? Where do we start? Hostinger is one if you're looking at NA10. Maybe what we'll do, Richard, maybe we can look at doing this together in a live demo at some point where we're talking more kind of practically. And so those are some of the ones where the costs are quite low. I was looking into that today. Um, and also then you connect your APIs, which are the keys. So if you're thinking of like, so what we did there is a demo in the GPT environment where we've got a very simple way where it goes and does some research. The idea is it kind of does the thing, brings it back, it's and it gets that. But however, if we're wanting it to for do, we want it to do something for our businesses, which we're going to go into, is what do we want it to do for our business? So what's the thing? Well, the one thing. Richard's example, starting small is really simple, right? Not to have too many different agents and then they'll go and ask another agent, then they'll come back. I mean, those are the steps that get a little bit more complex when we're thinking of AI
Yeah.
agents. Yeah.
You probably want to hire somebody realistically. Um, you know, man's got to know his limitations. So yeah,
Yeah.
simple agents, I think, are things that we could all apply, in our
Mm.
businesses, like write an agent to scrape your email looking for certain keywords, certain
Mm.
senders. That's kind of a simple agent. And I think maybe in the past we covered a few of those kind of examples. Some more complex agents. Um, I actually have a custom GPT that basically walks me through all of the data that it needs to collect to understand the workflow. Bally mentioned N8N, which is a great workflow product, but it also has a rather significant learning curve. And, you know, if you're building a more complex agent, that's to Bally's earlier point, where there's a workflow where there's 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 different steps, your better bet might be just be able to describe it and then put it on Upwork and have someone create it for you. I don't know if that's the direction you want it to head, Bally, but I'm just
Yeah.
trying to be
Yeah.
realistic. Even somebody like myself, um, that's
Yeah.
probably a better use of my time.
Yeah,
But
100%, absolutely. And so this is where we bring in partners that can support us all, right? Because that's the space we're in. And then I always say stay in the lane. That's why this is why I do what I do, because it means that we can talk and go into some of these practical examples. But if we want to do high level stuff and we're thinking about businesses and we're thinking, well, the direction we're going, I'm just going to get my slides up, then yeah, definitely get an expert on board. Unless you want to spend a lot of
mm.
time in front of it, like there's a lot of YouTube clips out there. There's a lot sort of, but it is going to be trial and error. It is definitely going to be trial and error on this in this space. So,
There,
you
there
know,
is another product called String, which is a little bit easier to use than N8N and might be better for folks to use to build a more simple kind of agents. So put that out there. I've worked with String and actually created several agents with it.
okay, string, yeah, great to know. Great to know. If we're looking at string, I'm not familiar with that. And each of these we would need. The great thing is we're able to do this with very little knowledge on how to do it because we have tools that can support us. However, we still need to know where we begin, right? So what's the thing? And where are we going to spend our time? Sort of doing this, so you could give it out to a product, give it to someone, or actually, I would say test it out for yourself anyway and have it clear, map it out. Baseline, how many of us are actively using AI tools other than, say, for just GPT or searches? I'd imagine most of us here are, right? Are using them for more than just kind of, going into GPT or, um, we're going beyond that, I'd imagine, right? Um, so if you're not, I'd encourage you to kind of like reach out. Chatbots versus agents. This is always a big question, right? So what are chatbots? They are trained on that one thing. I know, Ivan, you and I talked about chatbot. You have one on your website now, right? An agent is able to so one responds, the other one can act. Sort of like the agent does work, right? Does work behind the scenes and it's able to respond in a way probably a bit more nuanced as well. It's got memory in that, and we start building, and connecting the memory. I think that's the bit it kind of does. I think that this is the way where we're talking about agentic AI, where it's able to think and come back, but but we still need those humans in the loop, right? And also need to check it. So as we're coming back, so if you were to deploy an agent today or in the next few days, what single work task what would be the objective of that? What would that be for yourself? So um, I would start, it doesn't have to be immediately, but say, start thinking about what that's going to look like because, for all of us, this is a great opportunity. I mean, we're going to, there's a bit of research out there that a lot of money is going to go into this, and then people wonder, has money gone in in the right direction? But I believe as entrepreneurs, as most of us are here, we can start with one or two tasks, right? And start building, at least having understanding. And then, of course, we can hand over or but to be able to have those conversations at least. So we're allowing it to do independent AI tasks. We give it commands. It's going beyond generative AI, the shift from responsive content generation. It's it's doing more than that. It's outcome driven. That's the thing. We want it to go away and produce a blog. So Richard will have very kind of clear prompts, layered prompts, possibly, and getting it to do its reasoning and multi-steps, right, before it produces the outcome, right? So they will have tested it. There would have been few iterations along the line, I'd imagine, right? I know there will have been because I've been in this space too, right? I've seen, you go through that and then you're testing it. So we've got before we have these lang chains are just sort of different commands, if you like. It's open source. We started seeing that sort of much more tail end of like last year, where we started seeing much more of kind of like AI agents, people talking about it. And they're complex, the thought, the process, the thinking that goes behind that. And they are kind of goal-oriented entity. So the thing we want it to do. So it's like anything. When we're thinking of any type of, as you saying, task, but if we're thinking of the outcome, because I always say, what's the actual outcome? So they always define deliverables. Deliverables have a few things built in within that. And what are the mini tasks and what's the outcome? So that the mini, if you like, the tasks within the deliverable will be go and search, go and look online. And then, summarize. So you've got to give in another task, and then it's almost like your system process, right? That's involved. So it has these mini tasks, if you like, and then the output would be the deliverable, which is to write the content in my voice or whatever that might be. So it's if we're thinking of celebration, like sorry, specialization, we might be thinking of specific agents. They could be financial analysts. We might have an assistant. It's more than so it's looking at a specialism, if you like, and those are some of the disruptors we're obviously seeing. So if we think about from single agents to agentic flows, and this is what we were talking about, where we've got much more of kind of an orchestra, if you like, of complex things that they go and do. And I'm with you, Richard. I would see myself still kind of beginning this layer of like building, agents and the other stuff. I would then definitely go through, I work with another mentor and run through things and test them together. And because this takes time, right? It isn't something that we're all learning in this space. And I would openly say that because we're not going to know it all and things are evolving really quickly. The key thing is let's be proactive and think about from say agents move from reactive query answering to proactive identification. So that's actually a really good thing to be thinking about rather than it just kind of doing the thing. It's actually looking at where those maybe even risks are, what are some of the things that need doing. So it is able to go into its memory, however it's been trained, and understand what needs to be done. So there's a little bit, it's a bit like if you tell someone to go and make let's use the analogy of cooking, and you've got a scenario, you go into a new environment and you know where the saucepans are and everything is. And then, you're then asked to do something. You know where those saucepans are from your memory retrieval, where to go and what to do next. And so that's the way I use the analogies of cooking because it's just we can all relate to it. Like those little things, like, okay, I remember the mugs are over there or the saucepans over there. Now I've got to put it into here for it to do this thing. And then those are the sequences we do that. So the things that we do that become the memory of and so those are the things it learns. And as it learns that, it's able to kind of keep that in context and then it will adapt because it'll know, no, 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 I don't need a saucepan this time. I actually need I don't know, a frying pan, right? So I'm bringing out the frying pan, I'm doing this. So that's the analogy I use if I'm building and I'm thinking in that way because it helps me learn or I don't know how that's the analogy, right, for most of us when we're thinking about that. So before I go a little bit further into this, um, if you were to have your first agent, let me have a look. We've got a couple of are there questions? Um, you found this via chat GPT helpful. An AI agent is decision-making system that perceives and acts. An AI task a specific problem activity an agent is designed to complete. Okay. Okay, is the worker, the task, okay, is the job. Okay, yeah, yeah, it's a thing that you do, right? So yeah, it's a great way of um defining it. It's like the competency, right, of what they're competent to do and what's the skill that's needed to do that thing. I kind of go into that as a learner, but yeah, it's a great question. Okay, before we go on, and I know Richard's already done this, and you may be looking at kind of the next layer. You're talking about social media and being able to have and this is something I've been thinking about much more because where does my time go where I could be spending it serving clients, right? Less on maybe the things that are taking more time, but actually feels a little bit like we're our time's limited. So what are the things that we would pick? Like ideally for me, I would have someone writing my social media content, right? Or doing something of that nature, or responding to queries as they're coming in. So would be some of the tasks for me, or engaging in some of the content that's shared on social media, getting more of that. We have many chats and things like that. So if you were to have that one thing, okay. Everyone asked GPT after describing your business self. Yeah, that's absolutely a great point. What would be the thing that you could be asking it to do? Because it already starts knowing how you're showing up, right? So thanks, Richard. Yeah, that's great. And we'll definitely do something and together. So I wanted to ask before I go into the slides, it goes into a little bit more.
Point that Richard
Sorry.
raised there.
Yes. It's okay.
Hello, you were, and
I
then you were, and then nothing.
I'm so sorry. I was like, oh my, I thought Richard was going. I suddenly left as well, so apologies. I'm here, I'm back. Um, I hope, yeah,
Okay,
apologies for
cool.
that. Okay, so yeah, so I'll go into the slides, and as we're going through this, what I'd like us to think about, I want it to be practical for all of us. And it's great that we're doing this. Ideally, what could be the thing that we could then start thinking about that we could create an agent for, right? Or at least start thinking in that way, because it may not be this week, but it may be in a couple of weeks, or and we start once we start thinking in that way, the answers come. And we are going to be building one out. I believe that once we do this and we can put a message out and ask if people are interested, we can then do one together. Like we could do hands-on. Maybe we'll use string. I'll look into string. I'll look into Hostinger. Those are the few that keep the costs down, and we can sort of have something in mind that you'd like to build, and then you could build it. Like you could say, okay, this is the thing I'd like to be doing in this space. So before we do that, let's have a thing. Um, okay, we want to define what it is, like anything we do. Um, Most of us are coaches here. Kathy, we always go into what's the thing. Like, clarity is really key. Anything we're going to be building before we could go to GPT and of course ask GPT, to support us. But if we don't have that purpose of what that thing is that we
Yes.
want, we're going to go in different and if you've been using AI or any tool, it does take you in different angles. We start thinking it's the direction, but if we're not clear what the outcome for us is, and knowing what would support us. So I would say clarity is paramount. If we're thinking of what's the one single thing that you would like an agent to do? If you could say, if I could have it all my way, I'd do all of this, but no, one thing. What's the one thing you would help in your role at the moment? And have a think for yourselves. And don't ask what an AI can do. Ask what leadership must I achieve, or what business outcome do I need to achieve? Um, you know, if an agent is optimal and is going to support my path, what's the thing? So we can think of some examples of disruption. Let's disrupt the path. So we can think of sales marketing beyond just lead generation. We could have predictive customer acquisition funnels. How can we have a way we can build our plan that will allow for more optimization for our long-term value to our clients, or that type of approach? What's the maximum? So we could get it to start thinking in that way. So our customer pathway, if we're mapping our customer pathway, what does that look like in this quarter? It's a great time actually, because we're in that final quarter now. What does that look like? If we're looking at finance, not just fraud detection, proactive financial risk mitigation agents, thinking about systemic vulnerabilities before they manifest, right? What are some of the, so there's ways that we could be thinking about it a little bit different to how we might currently think, and we can ask our LLM models, whichever one we're using, or GPT or Claude. The challenge is articulate the 1% objective. It's not merely operational. We might be thinking very small, sort of bigger than that. And this is where we go into that creative process of like thinking bigger than just the thing we're doing. What can it do? If I was thinking of disruption. So that's how I'm starting to think of it, which is a little bit different to maybe if we're thinking just about our our tasks at the hand. So if we were thinking of data, so yeah, this is really key. If we're thinking of data in this way, so data is not just big, it's precision. And so we want to be very clear on what decision our agent is going to make. So if we give it too much garbage or give it too much stuff, we're just going to get sort of, if you know the typical kind of cliche of garbage out, but it won't be clear. So what we want, and the data imperatives for hyper-personalization, comprehensive, real-time, granular customer data is going to be key. If we can look at behavioral, transactional, sentiment, and remember, we can use our tools to support us, and also then anonymizing that, you know, to keep kind of names away, but we can use these tools to help us. But we want to clean it up. Um, and you know, when we created, and some of us who have been here, I don't know, Shrita, Anita, if you've done this, but I know Kathy's done this. I know Ivan's done this. You've created your own GPT. Remember, we were asking to put some knowledge base. We were asking to clean up the knowledge, if you like, before we fed it into the knowledge base, before we created our GPTs. Same principle, if you like, here. So we're thinking of for market supremacy, live market feeds, deep competitive intelligence, geographical risk indicators, what they might be looking like. Unseen edge, where the propriety, untapped data reserves. So the cleaner, more unique the data, the more defensible, if you like, your agent's advantage in creating sort of lots of mounts against competition. So we want to,
Mm.
so what that just means is um, do a bit of a data audit, and that's why when we create these or whatever we're creating, we're still thinking about what it kind of leans on. So if we're thinking of, you know, we're hearing a lot of terms on where's it picking its knowledge from at the moment, but because often if we're not cleaning that up or it doesn't understand, it's not just the volume, it's not just the masses, it's the velocity. It's looking at what the relevance is, veracity. It's gotta be clear when
Mm.
that's why I thought today's session's good in a way for us to start thinking in this way before we do before we do the next thing. So selecting the you know, the models like you know, there's a lot of buzzwords out there. Agents precision brain beyond the buzzwords. We want to give it. So in a way, we're training it and choose the model's architecture. So that's something we'll talk about in one of our sessions. Maybe we get Richard to do string, and I can look at NA10. Maybe we could do both in one session and ask him if he's open to doing that. Solves your strategic problem, not just any problem. So when we're thinking of our this quarter, what's that one thing we're looking to do? I had someone who's building courses out at the moment, and that's their thing they want. They want to build lots, they want to have courses that they can put online. They want to have a system that maps that out, and actually, eventually, they could have even agents, and you could build in an avatar that could even deliver that, you know, once they if they choose to go that direction. They're looking to do it themselves because they still feel that's the bit. So we have the choices, right? How we put those in. So strategic model to problem mapping, dynamic customer engagement. So when we're thinking of how do we map out this, so there are different ways to map out how we're going to be doing and building out that architecture. It's basically an architecture. If you go onto any of these, and I can share some YouTube clips if you're interested, you'll see that some are using kind of almost tree examples. Others are looking at sort of the NLP sentiment analysis with context and intent scale to truly personalize. Others are predictive market dominance. They might be looking at forecasting and causality, you know, that type of mapping. And others are looking at these are sort of you know, computer terminology. We've got GNNs, which is the graph neural networks. They look at things like graphics and things like that. You may have seen, so how do those structures and look at patterns? They look at patterns, right? So we're looking at these are kind of elite, if you like,
Mhm.
questions. What cognitive architecture is designed to deliver the specific high stakes analytical capability your business demands? It might be a little bit high um big picture pie thinking in a way, but because we're not doing it at the moment, that's why once we start visually thinking these things through, it it does kind of, you'll see some of the examples in the YouTube clips that I'll share. Um, Partner with an expert, and so you can map that out. If you're using my map or you're using, say, something like a Miro board, they're really great because you can map things out there. And or actually, you don't even need to do that. You could just go on to Hostinger, and you can, as you create the agents, you have these like little nodes that connect them, and you can kind of, and there are the tutorials too, but we'll let me see. For simple working through putting an agent together, post for my business, Facebook page, regular basis, area expertise, current market focus. Okay, thanks for that. Yeah. So yeah, it's all these things that we're thinking about for our own business. So tools integration, you're going to see a lot more integration. We're already seeing a lot more of this, and I think it was Anita said, yeah, two agents I've interacted with. And if you've got like these CRMs, whichever one it is, Salesforce, HubSpot, or any other, Zorro, is it not Zorro, is it? I'm thinking of um, orchestration agent, upsells, that type of thing. We can look at predictions. One thing great is we've already got a lot of this data coming through. So if we're on these platforms, these CRMs, then a lot of that's there, right? So if we've got ongoing sales, or if we're looking at other things like Oracle, we're seeing sort of pricing where perhaps people even leave off before buying, right? If you've got like a shopping cart where your people are buying on there, or platforms like Slack and Teams. So internal intelligence, decision markers, disseminating from so those collaborations, if those are happening in that community. So your mandate three could be an enterprise. It could be where an AI agent can unlock exponential value, not just incremental improvement. And then we can look at how these could be embedded. I know there's a lot when we're thinking of the architecture, but in essence, we're creating almost like a cycle of, it's like mapping out what that agent's going to do. Whether it's like rule based, we've got like a starting point. What is the starting point? What's the decision support? What's the future proof? There's a few steps along the way. How will this autonomous agent not merely fit, but optimize and fundamentally transform your current workflows, unlocking new levels of value creation? So, I would say we're going to be in a space where this will be a lot easier, say in a few months' time. And if we're starting, because that's got quite a few different steps involved, where we're looking at the entire cycle, if we're bringing people on, if we were to do with the one to begin with, I would say, and this goes into a little bit more into training your agent through that cognitive evolution. We're basically getting it to do its thinking, and then we've got the knowledge graph augmentation, we've got the ethical guardrails, then we're also getting it to adapt and learn and go through that cycle. This can happen, and it's already happening. So when we're thinking about this, and I know it's a little bit abstract at the moment because we're not doing it. And if you're like me, yeah, I like to hear about it, but I like to actually see the thing in action as well, because it makes sense. So we can look at few case scenarios, how this will be done, where we're thinking about what are the non-negotiables, what are we going to test, what are the simulated environments, deploy agents for simulations. I'm seeing this at the moment actually with one of the partners, that they're doing a lot of this simulated activities, and the value stream mapping. um yeah, so how's it going to improve? Bottom line for all of us is, pick one thing, have a purpose for all of the things we're picking. What's that one thing? If you were to say tomorrow, I'd love my agent to do, what would that thing be? Um, you know, and if I was to say in 2 weeks' time, we were to say, what's that one thing? You maybe even email it to us, or we can share and say, what would be that thing for me? I know because we don't want to be doing all of it. If we know we can automate it, there's a process we've gone through, we've got these systems in place, we're still doing a lot of it ourselves. What would be that thing you could give out? And later on, you could have different pathways. What would that thing be? And I'll put it open because it is a little bit high end thinking, if you like, behind the scenes of like what goes on. Ivan, what would that be for you? I love it.
Um, I think, as I put there, I think I think for many of us, if we have something in common, whether whatever it is, a Facebook post or something like that, but just to probably just work it through because at the moment, I can only speak for myself, but I find you've shared some stuff over the months that we've been together, which has been super helpful in helping me understand, right? And it's in the understanding, am I good at this stuff? The answer is A, not a chance, right? I'm Mr. Experiment at the moment, right? So um, I'm feeling like Mr. Edison at the moment, right? So, and we're not at the end, we're at the beginning. So there's lots of failures. However, the learning curve is massive. So I was thinking, maybe just something super simple, like you configure your chat GPT to you. You then say, okay, what we're going to do is you wanted to create a content, a post for whatever with a picture and it needs to put it onto a page or onto your website. And it's really elementary, probably for yourself, but I think for the people here, and I can only surmise as I speak for myself, but they would see the step one, two, three, four, and then the thinking follows that, and then they
Yeah,
go, okay, I get it. Now I can use it for boom, boom, boom.
yeah, yeah,
Something we always did in the automation world is we came up with very simple elementary examples, but we found that people actually ended up using them because they were kind of useful,
yeah.
but it expanded the thinking as a process.
Absolutely. Let's definitely do that because it's always say most of us in business we learn by doing, right, not just by kind of looking at it. So we can definitely
Mm.
do that. Would that help you, Kathy, as well? Sort of go through those steps.
Yes, yes, it would. I agree with Ivan. I so appreciate the wealth of knowledge that you shared with us. But yeah, I too am not. I don't proclaim to be good at any of it, but just the things that you have taught us. I mean, I use my AI for everything, and I think I've overworked. I've given him a name, and he does everything. So I need to just, he needs some help. I need to create some agents, and I'd like to have an agent for like one to handle my real estate issues, whatever they are, one to do the coaching stuff, and maybe one to do like things in the realm of writing. So I think if I can have maybe three different ones and maybe just give them like basic things, start to build them. Like I think I want to build all three, but I want to build them like very intentionally.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And so that's a really good kind of outcome. So for the next few months, you've got those in mind, and then you're already thinking about what can go in there to, because once we have it, we it sort of starts coming to us of, like we start thinking about what that could look like. So what we could do, I know it's come to the hour. I want to share something that if we were to do this, that you could then just so that when we start thinking about a few steps, one of them is when you're getting your we talked about API keys. So the one way to do that, I'll quickly do that because I think if I show you that, so the way to get your the key, let me double check that I've got it. Yeah, I've got it on here. So if I share, so we have to go into Open AI to get our key, and I'll show you what we do. So remember, I showed this some time ago. It wasn't. it's something that I showed a while back. It's so now when we get our key, which is the API key, we have to go into OpenAI itself and we get the key from there. So and this is so yeah, so we grab that key from there. This is the secret key. You can't see that necessarily, but so the way we do it, we go to OpenAI and it's openai.com and it's not GPT environment. So if you look at the profile, I've gone in, I think I had a little bit on here, but you have the general OpenAI platform. So let me see if I can, it's here where you go in and then you log in. If I log in there, and then I can access my key. I'm not showing it to you properly. If I go in, let me see if I can refresh. If I refresh and then I go log in. So on the right hand side on the top right, you've got GPT, Chat GPT, then you've got, don't know if I can make that bigger, I can. You've got the API platform. We click on there, and then what it does, it directs us to this page. We're logged in, so I've used my Gmail, I'm logged in there, but you can see now it's looking different from the GPT environment. And then we go and now she says, you get a API key. Where do we get it from? Now I'm missing it. Now I've lost it. So you see things like connectors to MCP. That was what Richard was talking about. So if I go in there, oh, there it is. So if I go back on my API reference, there it is. It's on the right hand side. So just to confuse us, so we have to go back on the right hand side. There's little kind of settings, and that's where you click to get your API key. This is the key that you need when you're connecting. It's like apps. Basically, it's an application key that you connect to. Say if you're going on to building your AI agent. So we would be using that key to connect this using this key. It's a private key that you have. So we have that for um, your Gemini account or for other accounts, and then you could whichever tool we're going to be using. But that's just one example. I wanted to show you that because those are the things that take a little bit of time as we're building it. And then if we're going to be using string, I'll speak to Richard because it'd be great if we can get him to show a string and I'll look at both. I really like A10, NA10, the notes because we can build it and it's not expensive and it can be done and it's and there's few steps involved. It's like anything, there are a few steps. We just follow those steps and I like the structure. Then once we have those, we can sort of apply those and test those out. So yeah, I'm excited, Kathy. You're going to be doing this. Ivan, Sharita, thank you. Anita, I know it's really early and I've gone over time. Hope you found it helpful today. It was a little bit, I know I'm mindful that it was a bit high end, but I just wanted to thank you and just say, look, um, it's AI agents are not technology, they're strategic shift in how high performing teams us are going to dominate as we move forward. We don't have to jump in and grab everything, but if we can think of the one thing, identify one agent and focus on its impact, not just let's focus on that one and let's see what it can do from now until Christmas, right? That could be a goal. And let's think of having and a go at that. And if you once you got questions, we can build it out and then we can look at if you got questions beyond that and start sort of gently as they say um, do a little bit and as we do a little bit, it builds on that. I mean, that's all I found the last few years. I'm doing a little bit each day and I'm noticing that, yeah, I didn't even know about string today. So that was something new. We all learn from one another. So appreciate you all being here and thank you so very much.
Happy belated birthday, Bally.
Thank
I'm so
you.
sorry I missed your birthday.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And yeah, excited to see where, yeah, Santa's gonna have like, yeah. Um, we could create one, a
Couldn't resist.
personal one, right? What would you like for your, what would be, you could put a Santa's wish list or something out there and create an agent to collect people's Christmas list or, but we want
Mm,
to focus on business, whatever that thing might be, we can, let's as we're all kind of building on this and it's exciting to build other stuff, yeah, start with that one thing. It'd be amazing. So in 2 weeks' time, shall we do that? Should we make
Yes,
that a practical hands-on where we go in and we can be logged in?
sounds good
awesome.
to me.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. So have a think what you'd like to, what platform. If you want to email me or you got an idea what you'd like to build, then we can look at one thing that would benefit or would, we'd find get value from. And it sounds like either content, um, I think from a marketing perspective, Ivan, you're saying. And Charita, if there's anything for you, you may have mentioned it in the chat. If I missed it, apologies.
Mm.
Okay, print money Ivan says. Okay, just like Santa's little helper. Thank you. Yeah, you're welcome. I love that. Yeah, let's continue building on this. And thank you for being here. And this is what makes it, right? Because it means like we're doing stuff together. We've got some actions to build on together. We're not left on our own to go and do it. We're like, okay, we're gonna make this happen.
Mm.
And we've
Yeah.
we've got that. So yeah, it's exciting.
Thank
Awesome. Thank you
you.
so much for your
You're
time
welcome.
and for your everything.
You're welcome. Speak to you.
Groovy.
Beautiful people.
Speak to you in a couple of weeks. Yes, speak to you then. Bye, Charita.
Ciao.
Bye now. Take care.
Bye.